And we're live, cuzzo. Hit him with that intro.
Welcome back to the Electives podcast. This is episode 4, and let's jump right into it. Today we're going to be talking about the average American making $100,000 a year. At least 51% of the people that are making that amount of money are living paycheck to paycheck. So that's obviously a big stat line, right?
Yeah.
And
it's actually kind of scary, too, when you think about it.
It is, because $100,000 used to mean, hey, you were in a pretty good spot financially,
right? You
know, and now because of inflation, because everything has went up, things have changed.
Yeah, it changed a lot.
Yep. So, would it be fair to say that maybe now $100,000 looks a little more like $60,000?
Yeah, I would say like $100,000. I mean, it ain't much.
Right.
It ain't much when the grand scheme of things, and if you got a family. I mean, if you're single, right, $100,000 is pretty straight. I mean, you'll be doing all right. But if you got a family and
right,
you guys are just making $100,000, that ain't gonna cut it.
It's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be tight, especially if you want to do like vacations,
right?
Or your kids want to play sports,
right?
Or maybe you want a new car.
Right.
I mean that's gonna be tough.
Right. So, in your opinion, how much do you think a family as a whole needs to bring in so that they could live comfortably and do those things? Travel, have the kids in extracurricular activities, sports, music, whatever it may be. In your opinion, what's a number?
So I think that's also going to depend on the type of lifestyle you want to live.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want a bigger house, mm-hmm, then the number is obviously going to be higher. Right. But if you're willing to, live smaller,
right,
maybe you don't drive the new car, maybe you drive a used car.
Yeah.
Maybe you live in a smaller house than the bigger house. Mm-hmm. Then I think the number changes because you don't necessarily need to make a whole lot of money if you don't have a whole lot of expenses, right?
Right.
So, but if you're like, no, man, I want to be able to not worry about it.
Right.
Right. And also this depends on your family size, right?
Right.
So my thoughts on it is I think you have to be above, and this is as a family.
Yeah.
I think you have to be above 150, close to 200 as a family in order to be able to be like, all right, we can do this, we can do that. We can have one new car, have a decent sized house.
Yep.
And I think that number will cover everything. I think it'll cover everything. It ain't. I mean, you'll have some extra probably depending on how you manage your money, but
right.
But I think now you're gonna need to get above 150.
No,
in order to feel a change.
Right. No, I agree.
What do you think, man?
I think I'm somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to deal with a great point that you brought up, which is how you manage your money and how you spend it.
Right.
I can admit, me personally, man, I have not been the best steward.
Right.
Of managing my money over the years. It's something that I think a lot of young blacks and Latinos struggle with, especially if you never saw it growing up, right?
Right.
But as you get older, you try and learn a little more. You try and study a little more.
Yeah.
Make the adjustments that you need to make so that you can put yourself in a position to hit those numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's kind of scary because you look at, obviously this is election year as well, right? We got, a new president that's going to be coming into play. Things are going to change. Yeah, hopefully. Oh, Sleepy Joe over there.
Sleepy. Wake up, Joe.
Wake up, Joe. Wake up. But no, it's kind of, at least for me, I think when we were kids, the idea of thinking that you had to make now $150,000 as a household just to be able to, live somewhat comfortably was kind of like a crazy thought,
Well, yeah, because you try to look at the jobs that you could get.
Right.
They seem to be, you got to spend a long time in school.
Right.
You got to do,
right.
But now it's different.
It's different. And then, we did an episode last year about AI and how AI is starting to replace a lot of jobs, right? So then the question becomes, well, as a society and as Americans, how many high-paying jobs are going to be left? Right? You have a whole entire generation of children right now that are going to high school, that are going into college, that are going to be graduating, and they're all going to be fighting for these same jobs.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so there's going to be supply and demand, and I don't know if, as a whole, the infrastructure is built for a bunch of college students coming out with enormous amounts of debt,
Right.
and not being able to make a living.
Yeah.
Everything's getting pushed back. People are getting married later in life. They're having kids later in life.
Yep.
And it all has to do with the infrastructure and the economy that's built in this country.
Yeah, the money, man. I mean, I was talking to somebody recently, and they were asking me about the real estate market and about when our house price is going to come down and stuff like that. And mind you, this guy, like I know him because we work together, so I know he makes a decent amount of money, but he's still in the same spot as probably somebody who makes 75,000 feels. Like, how am I supposed to? When am I going to be able to get a house that I want without having to be, break the bank? You know what I'm saying? So, I think people are feeling it all over.
Yeah,
because you have to now. People are stuck with having to sacrifice something that they don't want to sacrifice. So yeah, it's a crazy time, man. But like like these college students, that's why I think it's very important that they pick majors and really do the research on your major,
right?
So that you know what you're getting yourself into when you get out of college,
right? And it's kind of like I don't want to say not a double-edged sword, but I think like one of the tough things for young people is, at least for myself, I can admit this, I didn't even know who I was in those years of college age, So from my understanding, a lot of the people that I know that went to college, they all changed their majors. A lot of them aren't even doing what they got a degree
went
in.
To school,
right? So it's like the psyche of telling a young person, hey, go to college, figure it out. Yeah, you're going to obtain this enormous amount of debt. And then once you graduate, you're going to get in where you fit in almost.
Pretty much, man.
Is the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, how you supposed to get a job that requires experience when you don't have no experience?
Right.
You just got
right.
You just got out of school and they want you to have experience. That don't make no sense to me.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all.
Yeah, I mean, school debt is another thing. I mean, personally, I have school debt too, but they can get their money last, is the way I see it. And I think if you're going to school, you really gotta think about your return.
Right.
If you're, no offense to psychology majors, but unless you're going to go get your doctorate,
right.
Social work is very important, I think, but it's also the lowest paying scale. Like, you're going to pay a lot of money for school, and you're going to come out and you're not going to make a lot of money.
Right.
I don't understand that.
Yeah.
So I think something like that you got to be careful with, even though that might be your passion.
Right.
Which this would probably be like the next topic we get into, but like, there's ways to follow your passion without having to go to school so that they can teach you on how to make money with your passion. There's other ways you can do it.
Right. Now, a great question to ask you, in your opinion, do you feel like schools are honestly preparing kids for the real world, the reality?
I don't think so. I think there's a lot of things missing in school, and I think that's why it's very important for us as parents to teach. Well, I guess to learn first, learn as much as you can, so you could teach your kids the things that they're not getting in school. And that could be, I mean, the number one thing that I think all parents should be helping with their kids is learning how to communicate and talk in front of a group. Mm-hmm. If you could teach your kids how to do that, they're going to be successful no matter where they go. Right. Because a lot of the problems that children deal with is confidence and like this anxiety.
Yeah, social anxiety.
You know what I'm saying? So if you teach them how to do that and have them practice, then you're going to put them in a good spot. Where that way, school is just somewhere they go to have fun. Mm-hmm.
Now, where do you think that lack thereof comes from? The lack of confidence.
I just think it's just the way things have always been. You know what I'm saying? I think that's my there's going to be always that kid that's born with it. Mm-hmm. You know, we all went to school with kids that were just like, man, that dude.
He just got it.
He just got it.
Yeah.
He's smart. He could talk.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
He just got it all together. But then there's other, you know, there's guys like us, like, you know, we're normal. You know, we're trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And you
got to build it.
You got to build it. Somebody's got to teach you that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just I think that it's just the way it's been built, man. You know, there's some families that just learn the game earlier than other families,
right?
Especially immigrant families.
Yeah,
they're not going to learn this game the first time around.
No,
it's going to take the next kid and the next kid to try to figure it out.
Yep. No, it's true. And you know, we always say too, like every generation is supposed to get better,
right?
Excuse me. And I think that you know, just everything I've been noticing and everything I've been paying attention to in this country. I mean, right now we have things going on at the border, right? There's a bunch of immigrants coming in, and there's a lot of people that are unhappy about that, right? And I'm one who's always the one to say, like, I can understand both sides of the argument, right, as to why we shouldn't allow them to come in or why we should allow them to come in. The truth of the matter is that, you know, being a first generation person coming over, you have no idea what you're really getting yourself into, right? Because I think that even our parents, to an extent, once they got over here and once they started working hard, they realized the cost of living is a lot higher.
It's a lot higher
than originally expected. Yeah. So the American dream for some can turn into the American nightmare.
Right.
And now you have to find a way. Now I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Now I'm stuck. I came over here to seek freedom and to seek, you know, the financial dream. Yeah. And I'm going to be rolling in millions. But now I'm behind on my car payments.
Right.
My house could possibly getting foreclosed on. You know, there's all these things, man, that can happen without the proper education of how to handle the money and deal with the money when you're a first-time immigrant coming over to this country.
Well, yeah, that's because I think we as minorities, we hate talking about money for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. But like, you know, in my house, we talk about money all the time. You know, talk about it all the time. It ain't a secret.
Now, do you think that's because you being and obviously, like, you know, we're not trying to be politically correct in a sense, but like with you being the head of your household, with you being the dad, the father, right?
Yeah.
Do you set the pace when it comes to that, right? Because you're the one that's having these conversations, whether it be with your kids or with your wife, right?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, we talk about it all the time, man. Like it's you know, it's very important to talk about, man. That way they're not scared of it when it comes,
right?
You know, and as they get older, you know, as we know, like majority of families aren't talking about it. So if majority of families aren't talking about it, the chances of my daughters meeting somebody who didn't talk about money in their family is probably high.
More likely.
You know, more likely. Unless they meet somebody else kind of like our family where they talk about
wired
money.
The same.
It's wired the same.
Yeah.
But it may happen. Because I mean the biggest thing is you shouldn't, if you're fighting over money, man, that's in like in your household, that's probably like the biggest no, I think. You should never be fighting over money.
No, it's tough though, man. It's tough because there's so many families out there, man. So many families, so many couples that this is a norm for them. You know. But what advice, in your opinion, would you give to those families or to those couples on how to get out of that situation?
I think you have to start over. You know, I mean, you have to hit the reset at some point. You know, I've had to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like you have to just be like, hey, man, I mean, can't eat out this week, or no, we can't go here, or the big one, no, we can't buy everybody Christmas presents.
You
know what I'm saying? Like, hey, man, there's 1 year, man, like
there's got to be sacrifices.
Man, 1 year I did the books, right? And I was just like, hey, this whole there is too many people to buy presents for.
Yep.
Especially, you know, our minority families, just fucking everybody.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, I'm in for Christmas, but I need a Secret Santa. I you know what I'm saying? Like, because the reality was, we were spending all this money for what?
Right.
You know, and it was like, Yeah, it's, well, it's the season of giving. Okay, I'm still giving, but I'm just not giving to everybody. Like we're in exchange together.
Right.
Let's keep more money in our pockets rather than giving it to the store.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you just.
Now, is that like? Do you think that that's a big problem right now in America? Right? Is it the consumerism? Is
absolutely? Because I know you don't got it.
Yeah. So it's like
I know we don't got it.
Yeah.
So you put it. Where do you put it?
Yeah.
On a credit card.
Yeah.
And what's usually the APR is not zero.
Exactly.
Because you already used the zero.
Exactly.
About 20-some%.
Exactly. So
that's just not smart.
Yeah.
That's just not. And you know the hardest part of all this with money is that you get looked at a certain way. You know what I'm saying? You get looked at where they are, you know, people are like, well, you know, like you don't want to participate and stuff like that. And it's really not that, man. It's like really you're hitting the reset on your own situation.
Right.
So you can get out of wherever you're at.
Right.
And I think that's always the toughest part, man, because hitting the reset sucks.
Yeah, man, it does.
Hitting the reset sucks, dude.
It does. It does. No, we've all been there. I think, you know, those of us that are especially in our 30s, man. And there may come a point where you have to do it again, you know, later on down the road.
And you can't be afraid of it.
No, no. You know, and I'm glad you brought up having these conversations with your family. Because I do think that even for myself, man, growing up, I just remember, you know, hearing some of the conversations that my parents would have, and not in a bad way or anything like that. I think they're normal conversations that a lot of, you know, parents have, but just how intimidating it can be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's super intimidating, man.
You know, especially if you don't know the information. You know, like I don't think either one of my parents knew about investing, like about 401ks, Roth IRAs, investing in the stock market. These were all terms that they heard of.
Right.
And I know, especially in the black community,
yeah,
that was like almost taboo in the 70s, 80s, and 90s to some families. Because it's like, no, I'd rather put my money in the mattress.
Right.
Than give it to, you know, somebody else and hoping and praying that it's going to, it just didn't make, at the time, it wouldn't make it didn't make I guess it's not that it didn't make a logical sense. It's just they couldn't wrap their minds around the concept that if I give this person this money and I let them hold on to it, that they're going to bring it back. You know, there's a lot of trust issues within a lot of cultures, but specifically within the black community and money.
Yeah. No, and I think those vehicles too, I think that's only one part of retirement. I mean, that's only one part. If you do the math, I know there's a lot of TikToks out there that say, oh, if you give this much money, it compounds, well, you're going to have so many $1 million.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, but you're going to be like 60 something, almost 70 by the time you get it.
Right.
Depending on when you start.
Right. And depending.
You know what I'm saying?
Go ahead, yeah.
Like some of these TikTokers and these YouTubers are like painting the wrong picture, man. Cause I'm like, I have one of those. So I'm like,
right.
I don't know how you're coming up with your calculation.
Right.
But
it's not looking like that.
I'm like, it ain't looking like that until I get older.
Right.
And I started at 25.
Right.
So
and then at those ages, right, at 60 or at 70, right. How, depending, you don't know what's going to happen in life. You don't know what kind of quality of life you're going to have. You could have health issues. You can't even enjoy that money.
Right. Because, I mean, you know, rest in peace, my grandpa, he died at 82. Right. So if I'm 70 and I'm retiring, that means I might have only 12 years.
Right.
You know, like, I don't want that. I don't think any of us want that.
No, yeah.
You know, we're trying to get done at like 50.
Yeah, exactly.
45.
Yeah.
How do I get that?
Right.
So I think that's where we're at now, where people are like, man, this thing working 40 some years is not the same.
No, it's not
as it used to be.
It's not, and it's interesting too, because like I think if more people and more Americans were honest with themselves, especially the older generations that are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, you know, sometimes the advice that's given to the young people is like, yeah, just work your 40 hours a week, work your 40 years, and call it a day, right? But maybe that's not the best advice. Yeah. Maybe the best advice is go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. Go for it for 50. At least if you don't get it, and you have to go back and do, not necessarily, I don't want to say what everybody else is doing, but if you go back to the original blueprint, at least you can say, hey, I tried. Yeah. I gave it a shot, right? Like I didn't, when I finally leave this earth, I at least went knowing I gave it everything I had.
Yeah, I think people would be surprised, man. I think you'd be on a brink of. I think you'd be in a better spot than you probably thought you were going to be in if you try to go for it.
Yeah,
You're probably going to end up in a better spot.
I agree.
You might maybe fall short, but you're still. I think it's still going to be a success, and you're going to be like, okay, where do I go from here?
Now, do you believe that the universe and God, right, in a sense, rewards those that are bold enough to take risks and to try, as long as their heart and their intentions are pure, right? To push themselves and their family in the right direction. Do you believe that you're rewarded? For that?
It's not overnight.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But it'll come.
Yep.
It'll come because I think what I've learned from my experience is I've pushed, like we've talked about, for so many years. And like when I go to evaluate, I'm like, damn, it took me a while, but I'm here.
Yeah.
So things will come. It'll come, but you can't get impatient. Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, you just can't get impatient.
Yep.
You know, like that's why like last year the theme was 10 years. Yeah. Because I truly believe anywhere from 5 to 10 is where you're gonna find like the success. You're like, oh man, sweet spot. Yeah, the sweet spot. Damn, this does work. You know, so they just got to keep pushing, man. You just got to keep pushing.
Cool. Back from the break, man. So, to tie into the question that I asked you earlier about, what can people do, man, to make more money? In your opinion, how could they go about doing such a thing?
I think it ties into, what you mentioned, what we talked about before we hit record was, work harder on yourself than you do at your job. Yeah. I think that doesn't have to mean you have to go get a side hustle. Because a side hustle is not for everybody. Right. But it could mean maybe you learn how to speak better. Maybe you learn how to interact with people better. Yeah. Because that will also benefit you at your job or your new job. Right. When you go to apply for a new one. Right. So I think if you're constantly working on yourself, just building some type of skills. Right. I think that's going to give you more money. Just in turn, it's going to make you more money. You can provide more value to the marketplace, right? By consistently working on yourself, right? Yeah. No, that is so true, because I think what I've noticed too is, even with my customers that come into the barbershop, is that so many of them feel stuck at work. And I hate seeing it. I mean, these are people I care about, Yeah. Some of them have been working the job for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and they just feel stuck. They feel like they can't go up anymore. Yep. And if they, because of course I have these conversations with them, and I try to, remind them that, hey, like, there's still time left there's still minutes left in the game. Oh yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's only the second quarter. We haven't even gotten halftime yet. Right. Now for some of them, the older ones, obviously they may be in the third quarter or the fourth quarter of their life. And the reality of it may be that it's too late. But for a lot of them, man, it's like you got plenty of time. You just have to go work on your skills. Yeah. It's all about skills, man. That's all it is. And it's like you said when you said you just got to provide value to the marketplace, and then I think that's why when we go back to the first part of this episode where we're talking about kids and stuff like that, like I think that's why I think it's important for parents to make sure they can have enough money aside to teach their kids this, because like in basketball, they teach you got to have value on the court, right? So then you learn that there, and then now you can take it when you get older. So I mean, we're taught it as kids, right? I think we just forget. I agree. Or maybe not even that we forget, but that you're taught to learn that behavior through school, especially through public school. Yeah. Right. And maybe even through private school, because I don't want to use. I'm not using these words in a way that's negative when I say this, but like it's almost like they brainwash the kids to become robots, right? So it's like you can only be successful if you fit into the mold that this classroom is trying to mold you into. Right. So if you want to be a scientist, an engineer, a nurse, a doctor, whatever the case is, well, then you have to fit within these lines. You cannot go outside the line. Right. So the idea of working on yourself to a young kid, all of a sudden that just goes out the door. It's like, I can't focus on getting better when I have to study for this test, when I have to make sure that I'm getting my grades correct. Right. And then, of course, they do that all the way through college. Yeah.
they graduate, they get the degree, and then they quickly find out that sometimes you gotta improve yourself outside those lines,
right?
To truly bring the kind of value that you want to bring to the marketplace,
right,
so that you're compensated for it financially.
Yeah, because I don't think side hustles are always the answer. I think people, they're like, oh, I'll become a real estate agent, or oh, I'll go do this. But like, what they don't realize is you're always going to put in more money than you thought you were going to put in.
Mm-hmm.
Then it doesn't become so fun. Then right. Trying to make that extra money actually end up costing you money, especially if you don't make it back.
Right.
So, I think that's the advice that I would give to everybody, because I already made those mistakes chasing different side hustles.
Yeah.
And then if you just go back to the fundamentals of just learning a new skill that doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
And now we got YouTube, you got books.
Right.
Maybe a book costs you something, but YouTube, you can learn so much. So.
Yep. That's true. And it's free. Yeah.
And it's free.
So with that being said, we're going to wrap up this episode. We hope that you guys take a few things away from this episode. But more than anything, we want you to understand that if you work harder on yourself than you do at your job, like Jim Rohn says, it doesn't matter what you end up doing, you'll always be able to provide value to the marketplace. And we wish everybody financial success. So we'll see you on the next episode.
Peace.
Peace.